Welcome to the call with Nancy Sabato, where we have Christ-centered conversations that inspire faith, challenge hearts, and lead us closer to Christ. What if God is inviting us out of shallow faith and into deeper waters where lasting joy is found? So, Dave, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Nancy.
I'm so glad you're here today. Grit and Joy is what we're talking about. And that's this book right here. Grit and Joy Help for Bewildered Families of Teens. And so, oh my gosh, how great is this book? Dave, before we jump into the book
Yeah.
though, can you talk about how God has gifted you to encourage others in their walk with Him?
Well, it feels like the privilege of life. It seems like it's the centerpiece of life, right? There's something about getting, first of all, my own rescue story, my own sense of getting connected to the Lord Jesus and just finding life with Him, and then realizing that part of the journey, part of the joy is to join Him in whatever He wants to do with other people. And I think I wasn't raised in a church home. So I came to Christ as a high school sophomore, didn't know that I wasn't a Christian. If you'd have asked me, are you a Christian? I would have said yes, because I was kind of for God, right? I was American. Actually, I thought I was an American, so I'm a Christian. And but I didn't know that I could have a relationship with God through Christ. And lo and behold, once I discovered that, um, it took a few months to figure some things out. But I realized, well, this is everything. This is centerpiece. And I saw a lot of my friends. I got to just talk about that when I was in high school, and saw a lot of my friends come to Christ. I think that I probably had the most fruitful ministry of my entire career, and I've been around for a while. When I was a high school senior, I saw 18 of my friends come to Jesus, and it was just fantastic. So there's a, sometimes people talk about, keep the dogs away from the chicken coop because they might get a taste and they'll get. I think I got a taste for almost everything in my life and career in those first couple of years of walking with the Lord, and been trying to be faithful ever since. So
Amen.
yeah,
Amen. Okay. So why do you think joy is so hard to hold on to in today's world?
yeah, great question. The notion, the sort of fixation about joy that happened. I don't take credit for that. I was invited into a research project in 2016. The John Templeton Foundation had enlisted folks at Yale to study joy in all of its facets. And there were about a dozen scholars that had adolescents as their target. And so I was asked to jump in and join, and I was sort of surprised. I walked into the room. I knew about three or four of them. I didn't know very many of them. I kind of wisecracked. Am I the token evangelical in the room? They said, Skip said, you're the token parachurch guy, which is, I spent much of my year with Youth for Christ working with non-church kids, and I thought about that for a second. I realized, that's half, that's half the population, non-church kids for sure. Anyway, so I got half, and the rest of you got the other half, is what I said. But the notion of joy as a crown jewel in terms of fruitfulness uh, captivated my attention when I was in that 4 year scholarship with that group of people, and I became convinced. And then I stare at the scripture and the promises about rejoice always, and that there is this possibility of resilient joy. And then you stare sideways at research like I've been doing, and storylines with young people, especially these days, and it's
Mhm.
not it's not the way they are. And it's
Yeah.
not just it's not just young people. It's all of us who are kind of we have these fleeting experiences with joy.
Mhm.
In the book, I think we talk about the difference between the state of joy, which is measured in kind of moments, and then the trait of joy, which is more enduring.
Mhm.
And I think we're just kind of chasing the big dog here. We're trying to say that, Jesus promises a kind of a way of being that means that joy can endure and be resilient, no matter what.
Mhm.
So let's see if we can figure out how to target the way we are with Jesus in a way that, yields that first fruit of joy.
So hard, to find the joy in the world right now. It's so tough because there's so much going on and people are not the way they were 10 or 20 years ago. Life is not like that anymore. And so, people are just, angry and but not all people, but people are just angrier than I know I talk to a lot of people than they thought, than they should be,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, I agree. And I just turned 71, so I've been retired for a few years since COVID, actually. And I just noticed that in myself. I mean, there's a Clint Eastwood movie, I think Gran Torino, where he just kind of hollers, "Get off my lawn" all the time. That's how
Yeah.
I feel like maybe that's me, right? Where does that come from? Yeah, and then some of it's just like life changes, everything's moving, it's out of your control. You got to
Yeah.
make your peace with that reality that actually it's never been in your control. You might have lived with the myth of it for a while,
Yeah.
depending on what kind of job you have, but I think there's some secret to knowing about joy that makes your peace with that too. And I I really long to help people sort of be okay with a relationship with Jesus, who's Lord of all
Hmm.
things,
Yeah.
and go, yeah, you got control. I'm good with you. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. When we have joy in our own hearts, right, it kind of spills out into our kids too,
that's right. That's right.
right?
Yep.
Because, you focus a lot about teens in your book. So, what are some of the ways that adults are missing the mark with young people?
Yeah. Well, tracing all the way back to when I got my PhD, it's in educational psychology, and the big question of ed psych is how do people learn and grow? And I concentrated on the social and moral side of that equation, which had me really fascinated, especially with dynamics like modeling. Like,
Hmm.
the way we most affect others isn't
Hmm.
in just our words, it's the way we are with them. And that's especially going to be true in families and parents and
Hmm.
frankly best friends. And young people learn the faith in part because of the observation. In about 15 years ago or so, there was a study that was released about the state of young people that has kind of been a baseline from research for sociologists, saying that young people, have a kind of a faith they call as moralistic therapeutic deism. So they believe in a God who's in charge of right and wrong, but he's also in charge of my happiness, but he's way out there. He's not close and personal. So,
Hmm.
they just look to God in a vague way for good things that happen. And that's where kids are. It's a very inarticulate in many ways, but and it's not going to be sustaining. And in looking at the data over years, numbers of books have come out of it. Princeton's Kenda Dean came out and made an observation that said, look, if kids are this way, they learned it from somebody. They,
Hmm.
they learned it from parents. They learned it from the church leaders. I mean, this is an acquired thing that they are, and we have to own that. And
Hmm.
I'm taking that very seriously. I'm going, okay, my heart, my strategy, my investment for years with Youth for Christ USA has been with young people who are just lost and aimless and stumbling around, and maybe what I've observed in youth ministry is that we settle for something that doesn't go deep enough.
Hmm.
In our book, we talk about like surface splashing on the water, just kind of this. That's where you meet kids. But
Hmm.
we settle too much in ministry with what I call snorkeling, where you get a peek at the beauty, but it's kind of useful, is what it is. Youth ministry is
Hmm.
useful. Just keep our kids good, will you? That's what we want from our youth ministry. I go, that's not what Jesus wants. He wants to take us into the deep. He wants to strap scuba tanks on us and get us down there where the mystery is, where it's quiet,
Hmm.
where he lives, where identities are formed.
Hmm.
And I just suggest that, look, if we adults who love kids, be that
Mm.
parents or youth workers or whatever,
Mhm.
if we don't know how to go deep, we can't take kids deep.
Yeah.
That's where
Agreed.
our book is all about, I think.
Yeah, that's so profound because, as you're talking, I'm thinking to myself like this, the boomer generation, they lost a lot of their love for God, turning their back and just kind of going with whatever the flow of the world is. And even they take things out of the movies, they take things out of out of the schools, everything where the kids could actually have a curiosity. Oh, what is God about? Half of them don't even know who God is. They don't even know there's a God.
Yeah.
They just think this that they're walking along and this is it.
Yep.
So, want to speak into that a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we use that word aimless, and we try to choose that. I mean, there's theologically you could camp in the word just the lost and wander, but there's something when you get to know young people by listening to their story, by asking, by walking with them in relationship and trying to understand them. There is a cluelessness that's just they don't possess it. Sometimes we think of lost as like you're just off, doing all kinds of raunchy, sinful things. That might be true. That may not be true. Sometimes it's just I didn't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know what you're talking about. And that's where, the people that I've walked with for so many years are trying to engage kids like that and just show them a different way. For the first 13 years of my ministry, I was doing direct work with kids, and that was back in the 70s and early 80s, and I was so we'd get opportunity to kind of come on campus and get connected to kids. And I mean, think about it. How in the world am I going to get to know somebody? I just had to sort of blaze the trail. And sometimes it was working through the lunchroom, right? Just like
Yeah.
I'd get to come in and pop down next to somebody at the table and figure out how to start a conversation and abide by the rules. So I'm not really talking directly about Jesus. I'm just getting to know them. But I always had in my mind that I would love, Lord, once I got done with the conversation at the table, if I walk away, if all that was happening was that somebody was a bit curious about what they just experienced with me. That guy's different. Yeah, okay. That's my foothold. And I think that
Yeah.
in many ways, I think joy is a fantastic leading indicator of a foothold. If we can do that, like, what's that guy all about? What's he happy about? What's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very attractive. I mean, if you went door to door trying to say, I can guarantee you the joy if you want to sign up. Most people would, if they believed you, they'd sign up.
Yeah. You know, Dave, you make so many great points. It's true. I mean, we really have to get them to be curious, right? And
Yeah,
so, what do you think? What kind of questions could you ask someone to get them more curious?
yeah. I think my conviction is that their curiosity in what I'm about or what I might have to offer is probably linked to the degree they believe I'm truly, sincerely curious about their story.
Hmm.
And that's where I'd start, rather than having an arsenal of really tight questions that I might have in my back pocket. It seems like I probably have developed those over the years anyway, but I listen carefully, and it's usually like trying to pinpoint something that I heard to follow up on. I go, that's interesting. When you're doing that, what's that feel like? Or, have you, or even playful and challenging and poking. I think that I think that the economy I'm trying to work on, I guess, in this relationship is to how do I build trust?
Hmm.
And I think trust is a relationship effort. And
Hmm.
it's not so much, again, the shortcut of ministry, the shortcut of our age
Hmm.
is is to try to devise some sort of perfect text messaging that you send to people that, you know, it's a click, I'm going to click to open. And
Yeah.
people see through that, and they don't,
Yeah.
and they're kind of, that's part of the lostness, I think. We don't, people need authentic relationships with, with real people who got real if I come across as perfect, I'm not going to connect to a kid. I know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So
And so the thing too is I'm just pulling this out. You know, when you're staring at this, you're not getting through.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And that is that that's a sign of the times too. You got to kind of I'm still trying to make sense of whether I'm the right person as an old timer to help break through with that, because
Mm,
you kind of just there's a way of being that staring at the phone or staring at any screen is going to rob you of. I'm reading a
mhm.
lot about that and the research on that. And
Yeah.
John Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation, has done some great research. I'm reading about something called Super Bloom, which is talking about the way that the technologies have just changed. The medium is the message, right? So technology's changed the way you relate to people, and all of a sudden now you're not really relating deeply. And and I think the human spirit hasn't changed. We long for deep connections. So we're just kind
Mhm.
of that the metaphor of splashing around on the surface feels like it fits. And even then, just going, okay, well, somebody gets captivated by what can be under the water but they only get to snorkel level, and they didn't even imagine what it would be like to be in the quiet deep and to be actually hand holding Jesus, who knows you best
Mhm.
in that
Mhm.
deep, and just kind of going, that's where the identity is. So I again, that I think when we stumbled across in the book research, the social science notion of grit. University of Pennsylvania faculty member Angela Duckworth published a book by that title, and it's a great book. It describes what grit is. In essence, it is getting a really singular focus about something, and then persevering towards that. It's just as what, and she was enlisted by the military schools like West Point and such, the naval academies, to try to help understand why it was that some of the enrollees didn't persevere. They
Mhm.
dropped out in that first summer. And so they're trying to get a measure that would predict that they would last. And what
Mhm.
she came up with was grit. And it's been fascinating. And I stepped back, and Ebony and I, my co-author, stepped back and go, well, what did the disciples have? Did Jesus choose the 12 who are all over the map in terms of their they just look different. It's a great composite of differences. But what did they have in common?
Mhm.
And I think what we concluded was their grit. The one thing they could celebrate was they figured out over a 3-year walk with him how to be with him. Period. And that it's like being with Jesus all the time, every time is possible, and that companionship, especially knowing that he is the Lord when he's your companion and he
Mhm.
comforts you and he guides you. But if you could figure that out, that's a source of joy. That's
Mhm.
that's the one thing that Jesus promises, and it has a great spillover for the rest of life too. So I'm
Mhm.
sorry, I am just a soapbox guy. I mean, you get me talking on this kind of stuff, and and for what it's worth, that wouldn't work with kids too. I have to shorten my speeches when I'm just with kids.
But you're making so much sense, though. I mean, there's a lot of people out there. I mean, like as you're talking, I'm thinking about ten questions. But I guess, what bothers me the most, and I'm sure bothers you too, is that there's so many people that are not investing in their kids. They're
Yeah.
not investing in their future, and the kids feel like they're not cared about, that they're off on their own. And please, can you just speak and give some pointers to somebody out there that doesn't know how to speak to their kid, or if they're not speaking to their kid, what should they be doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. Oh, uh, I have a tremendous burden for them because I think that it's interesting. We've written a book, but then I step back and I wonder the very the very way of being that has you reading and thinking about what a book is elusive to the very. I mean, that's the problem in many ways. It's we're chasing a pattern of life and frenzy and activity and filling it up that absolutely sneers at an inner life that's quiet, that trusts and rests and dare I even say figures out how to translate Sabbath practicing in our life. I mean that was the researchers from Yale actually assigned that to me as the thing that they wanted me to look at. How does Sabbath relate to young people? Well, and I said, do you know who I am? I mean, I've been working in Youth for Christ for years. We don't do Sabbath. Sabbath is like at the Indy 500, we just, it's a pit stop. You change the tires and keep going because there's a rescue agenda. Kids are lost. We gotta go racing into the fire. Urgency was all over us. Honest, and I was only halfway tongue in cheek. I hadn't cultivated Sabbath practices and
Mhm.
tried to translate that. And I know that there are some who are being really refreshed by returning to old school ways of doing that. But again, I think that like like what Jesus did with other commandments, like murder. It's not just murder; it's hate. Adultery. It's not just adultery; it's lust. I mean, I think that there's something about when he stares at the tenth at all the commandments, he upgrades them. He gives them depth that we haven't seen, and I think that's also true when we understand how he approaches rest.
Mhm.
The Matthew 11:28 to 30, come to me all you who are weary and heavy laden, I will give you rest. So he owns this restfulness rhythm, but it
Mhm.
doesn't mean that it's going to be less than Sabbath. It's going to be more than Sabbath. It's going to be
Mhm.
ongoing and regular and well, again, what what to do if you're a parent and you're just stymied by getting carried along by the culture all around your kids, trying to be a good parent, trying to help them fit in, and on it goes. There's, I think, in an effort to love your kids and give them the best you can, chances are you give them all kinds of experiences, perhaps instead of the experience of learning how to be quiet and rest.
Mhm.
And you can't take them there if you haven't figured it out. So I would pull them. I would if you got teenagers in your home right now and you've never done this, you're starting from zero. I would pull them in and just confess to them. Just say, I am so sorry. I haven't done this very well myself, but I want to, and I need your help. Can we
Mhm.
all just kind of jump into this together? Don't pretend that you've got it together. They know what you are really like. You can't hide that, but invite them into the journey and start to work on little things
Mhm.
and and actually try them out and test them and see what works and what doesn't work.
Mhm.
We
Mhm.
did we did this. We had some research we were doing with different groups around the country. I still remember a call from I think his name was John. He was an inner city youth worker in Columbus, Ohio. And one of the things that he was assigned to take his guys and try to test the habit of rest. What's that look like? And he said, "Hey, the guys want to know if it's okay to play basketball on Sunday. If that is that a," and I said, "That's a great question. I think your guys should play basketball, stop, talk about whether it was restful or not." Because I've seen guys play pickup basketball where it's far from rest. It's just like we're throwing down, we're getting mad at each other all the time. You got to pay attention to your inner state. You got to help each other be honest and do that. And I said, I'm not interested in giving you a list of things to do or not do. That's Jesus' agenda, not mine. You gotta just strap it on, get as close as you can to him, and be honest with each other. You can help each other figure this out.
Can you leave my audience with something that, that you want them to know about this book, Grit and Joy?
I would want you to know not everybody possesses grit of any kind. So there's a lot of people who have no singular focus about anything. That's one possibility. Second, you can have a singular focus about the wrong thing. I want to invite you to step into this grit as a singular focus about life with Jesus. And don't compartmentalize it. It's life. God isn't interested in our work life, family life, play life, recreational, all those distinctions, those compartments, that's part of the fragmentation that's messing everybody up. Joy spikes up and down when you like something and you don't like something. That kind of joy I'm not interested in either. I want the kind of resilient, prevailing joy that covers all of life. And the only person that covers all of life is Jesus, and he's got it all under control. And I just go, just aim your grit. Aim your grit at being with Jesus more moments today than you did yesterday, and more of tomorrow than you do today. And once you do that, just start to take your little joy pulse every day just to find out, just to I do a blood pressure check every single day. Just do that. Just say, what was the joy like? Where did I have the joy? I think you'll find that you'll all of a sudden start to roll out some things that are going to be fascinating. And don't be surprised if the kids that see you and know you best, whether you're a grandpa, dad, mom, youth worker, don't be surprised if they start asking questions. They become curious. Could you tell me the reason for the hope that's within you? That kind of question. So,
Okay, so you can find out more about Dave and get the book Grit and Joy, Help for Bewildered Families of Teens, at randallhouse.com. And you can also get it, I'm sure, wherever books are sold. And Dave, do you have a website if they need to contact you or anything?
yeah, I just, because of this interview, Nancy, thank you for the prompt. I mean, we created a little Facebook page for anybody who wants to sort of jump in and start conversations because you're reading. So it's a Grit and Joy Facebook thing. You can sort of hunt that down. I might have given you the tag when I sent ahead. So
Yep, I'll put the link in here. Thank you for joining me today.
thank you for having me. Thank you. It's been a joy.
Well, thanks for tuning in. And if you like this interview, don't forget to leave a comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. For more Christ-centered conversations, visit thecallwithNancySabato.com. Until next time, all glory and honor to King Jesus.